Hey friends, tonight we begin with why you wouldn't last a day as a caveman. Before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe only if you truly enjoy this kind of slow, calming storytelling. Your support means the world and helps me keep creating peaceful spaces like this one. Tell me no in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is for you right now. I love seeing how this little quiet corner of the internet brings together people from all over the world. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan or some soft background, and let's gently into tonight's journey together. Imagine opening your eyes, not in the comfort of your modern home, but on the floor of a cold, dimly lit cave. There are no blankets neatly folded by your side, no glass of water on the nightstand, and certainly no phone buzzing with notifications to ease you into the morning. Instead, you feel the uneven texture of stone beneath your back. Hear the faint crackling of a dying fire somewhere near the cave entrance, and smell the heavy mix of smoke, damp air, and animal hide. This is not a dream. This is life as it would have been for a human tens of thousands of years ago, when survival was not about thriving, but simply about enduring the next few hours. The first thing you would notice, even before standing up, is the cold. Modern homes insulate you from the air outside, regulating temperature to suit your comfort. But a cave is no home in the sense you understand it. During the night, the fire kept alive by someone in your group would have dwindled into glowing embers. If you had not piled on animal furs or pressed close to the others in your band, you might have woken shivering, teeth chattering, fingers stiff with cold. The simple act of leaving your sleeping spot would feel like a punishment. Your breath forms a faint mist in the chill, and you realize that every movement is a reminder. Warmth is fleeting. Safety is fragile. But you must rise, because there is no luxury of lying still. The day for a caveman begins early, often before the sun has climbed high enough to pierce the horizon. Hunger gnaws at you, sharper than the cold, and you know the day ahead must revolve around finding food. Unlike modern life, where a kitchen is always stocked or a store is just around the corner, survival here means constant vigilance. If you ate well yesterday, it was likely because a hunt was successful or roots and berries were gathered. But the memory of a good meal does not carry over to today. Food spoils quickly, meat rots if not smoked, and plants are seasonal. Every morning begins with the same uncertainty. Will we eat or will we go hungry? You glance around at your companions. They stir awake, grunting, rubbing their eyes, stretching limbs stiffened by the night. There is no privacy here, no bedroom, doors to close. You live shoulder to shoulder with family and strangers alike, bound together by necessity. The cave is not decorated, though signs of life cling to its surfaces. Charcoal drawings may stain the walls marks of hunts, animals, and strange symbols whose meanings you cannot decipher, but which speak to an attempt to capture the world in image. Skins and bones litter corners, used as tools or discarded remnants of meals past. This is not the romanticized vision of prehistory often painted in stories. It is a crowded, dirty, and raw existence. If you step outside, the world does not offer relief. The air is damp, carrying the scent of earth and forest. The ground beneath your feet is uneven, perhaps muddy, perhaps frozen, depending on the season. There are no paths worn smooth by shoes or wheels, only animal tracks and the faint signs of where your band has moved through the wilderness before. The trees loom tall, their branches tangled like skeletal fingers, and the sounds of birds mix with the occasional rustle of something larger, perhaps a deer, perhaps a predator. The world is not silent, but it is unsettlingly vast. You feel very small, very vulnerable, as if you have stepped into a place that does not want you here. Now imagine the task that defines your morning. Finding food. Hunting is not as simple as grabbing a spear and chasing an animal. It requires planning, cooperation, and enormous risk. Your group must scan the horizon for sign tracks pressed into the dirt, droppings left behind, broken branches that hint at movement. Every sound matters. Every clue can mean the difference between a successful hunt and a wasted effort that leaves you weaker than before. And hunting is dangerous. The animals you pursue are not passive. A wild boar, cornered, can gore you with its tusks. A bison, massive and muscular, can crush you beneath its hooves. Even smaller animals bite and scratch, carrying infections you cannot treat. If you are not hunting, you are foraging. But this is no leisurely stroll with a basket in hand. Foraging means scouring the land for roots, berries, and edible plants. And unless you have inherited the knowledge of your elders, you will not know which plants nourish and which kill. A berry that looks sweet may stop your breath. A root that smells earthy may burn your stomach. Trial and error has claimed countless lives, and your survival depends on tradition, memory, and the sharp eye of someone who knows the land better than you. The hunger presses against you constantly. Imagine your stomach growling, the ache so deep it dulls your thoughts. You cannot push it away with distractions. There are no books, no screens, no diversions. The body reminds you every second that you must eat, and so your mind is consumed by that thought. Hunger becomes not just physical discomfort, but a shadow that follows you throughout the day. And water, the simplest of needs, is no easier to secure. Streams and rivers might look inviting, but they are not clean. Animals bathe in them, urinate in them, die in them. The water carries parasites, invisible to your eye, but merciless once inside your body. If you drink without care, you may fall. Ill stomach cramps, fever, and relentless diarrhea are not inconveniences. Here they are, death sentences. Dehydration can claim you faster than starvation, and so every sip carries risk. To survive, you must know where to drink, or perhaps you must boil water over a fire if you have the time and tools. But even then, mistakes happen, and the weakness that comes with sickness is one you cannot afford in a world where every day is already a fight. The sun climbs higher, but warmth does not bring relief. The world around you demands constant attention. Predators stalk the same forests you walk through. Wolves, lions, even bears may cross your path, and you are not the apex predator you imagine yourself to be in modern life. You are fragile, slow, and poorly armed compared to the beasts that dominate the wilderness. A spear can wound, yes, but a predator has speed and instinct on its side. Often, your only defense is to stay together, to avoid confrontation, and to hope the animal finds easier prey. Living as a caveman means living with the knowledge that death waits in the shadows, sometimes only a heartbeat away. Even if the day goes well, even if food is found and water is safe, the work never stops. You must mend tools, sharpen stones, repair clothing made from hides, and keep the fire alive. Fire is life itself. It warms you, protects you from beasts, and cooks your food. But fire is fickle. A sudden rain can snuff it out. A strong wind can scatter its sparks. If the fire dies, reigniting it is no simple matter. You may rub sticks together until your hands blister, or strike stones until sparks appear. Sometimes, no matter how hard you try, nothing catches. Then you sit in the cold, in the dark, praying someone else nearby has kept their fire alive. Without fire, you are more vulnerable than ever. As the day wears on, fatigue seeps into your bones. Every task is physical. You are constantly moving, lifting, carrying, striking, or walking. Your body aches, your muscles tire, but there is no rest until night comes. And even then, rest is not guaranteed. You may lie awake listening for sounds outside the cave, alert for danger. Or you may cough through the night as smoke from the fire irritates your lungs. You may wake again and again, cold and hungry, never truly sinking into the comfort of sleep, today. And through it all, fear lingers. Fear of hunger, fear of predators, fear of sickness, fear of injury. If you twist your ankle walking over uneven ground, there are no doctors, no crutches, no painkillers. An injury that seems small now can cripple you for life in a world where mobility is survival. If you are sick, there are no medicines beyond herbs and rituals, no antibiotics to fight infection. Death is never far. It hovers over every action. A reminder that life is fragile, temporary, and easily taken. This was a single day in the life of a caveman. Just one morning to night. And already, it is clear why survival was never guaranteed. Why life expectancy was low, and why your modern comforts would not prepare you to last even these few hours. To live as a caveman was to exist in a state of constant vigilance, constant hunger, and constant fear. You may think you could adjust, that with enough determination you'd simply tough it out. But toughness is not enough here. Life as a caveman demands knowledge, and knowledge is something you do not have. Every detail of this world, every tree, every rock, every sound, carries meaning. A bent blade of grass could reveal a recent animal path. The smell of certain plants in the air could warn of nearby predators or mark the presence of edible roots beneath the soil. The shape of clouds above might signal rain, which could save your thirst or drown your fire. Survival is not instinct. Alone, it is a library of lessons passed from elders to the young. Without that heritage, you stumble blind. And blindness here is a death sentence. Imagine you step away from the safety of your group. You wander into the forest, thinking it will be easy to find something to eat. Within minutes, the trees seem to close in around you. There are no clear paths. The sound of snapping twigs under your feet echoes louder than you expect, and soon, the direction you came from feels uncertain. Turn left, turn right, it all looks the same. Your chest tightens with unease as you realize how quickly you can become lost in a world that does not forgive mistakes. The forest, for all its beauty, is a labyrinth without mercy. If panic drives you deeper, you might stumble upon plants that seem inviting. Bright berries dangle from a bush, glistening in the light. Hunger drives your hand forward. You pluck one bite into its skin, taste its sharp sweetness. At first, nothing happens, but hours later, your stomach twists, your vision blurs, and a wave of nausea forces you to the ground. You have no medicine. The others may carry you back, but they cannot purge the poison coursing through you. By the time night falls, your body is weak, and whether you live or die depends entirely on luck. This is the cruel reality of a world where even the plants test your judgment. Now let us say you avoided the plants, that you tried to follow your group into a hunt. You hold a spear carved from wood, tipped with a sharp stone tied in place with animal sinew. It feels clumsy in your hands compared to the sleek tools of modern life. The hunt begins. You move quietly, crouched low, stepping carefully so as not to alert the prey. The animal, perhaps a deer, perhaps something larger, feeds ahead, unaware of your approach. Your group circles it slowly, eyes flashing signals, bodies tense with anticipation. At the right moment, you lunge forward, thrusting the spear with all your strength. But your muscles are not trained for this. The spear shakes. Your grip falters. The throw is weak. The animal bolts. The moment is gone, and your failure ripples through the group. Hunger will last another day, and the glares of your companions remind you of the cost. One mistake is not just your problem, it is everyone's. Even if the hunt succeeds, danger lingers. A wounded animal is unpredictable. It charges with furious strength, eyes wild, hooves striking, tusks slashing. You are not behind a barrier or armed with a rifle. You are a few feet away from a creature that outweighs you, outpaces you, and can kill you with a single strike. The hunt that promises food also promises injury. Perhaps you escape with only scratches, but if bones crack or flesh tears, infection follows. Without treatment, without antibiotics, even a minor wound festers. Your body weakens, fever rises, and your chances of recovery shrank with every hour. And yet, hunting is only one side of the story. Foraging, too, is a trial of patience and memory. You crawl on your hands and knees, digging into the earth with sticks or bare fingers. Dirt cakes under your nails as you tug at roots, hoping they are edible. Sometimes they are tough, tasteless, or bitter. Other times they are filled with nutrition that keeps you alive. The knowledge of which is not something you learn in a day, it is inherited, practiced, perfected through years of survival. Without that skill, you waste time, energy, and risk your life. But perhaps the greatest shock to you, a modern person, would not be the hunger or the danger. It would be the silence. In your world, noise is everywhere. Cars rushing, people talking, devices humming. In the life of a caveman, there is only the wind through the trees, the snap of a branch, the occasional cry of an animal. The silence is not peaceful, it is heavy. Every sound carries weight. A twig snapping behind you may be a companion or a predator. The rustle of leaves might signal prey or danger. You live not in a world of background noise, but in one where every sound is a message. And you must learn to listen, or you will not last. As the day wears on, exhaustion sets in. Your body aches from the constant movement, from crouching low, from carrying wood, from sharpening tools. You have no soft chair to sink into, no mattress waiting for you. Rest is what you snatch in moments, leaning against a tree, squatting on the ground, sitting on cold stone. Your skin is marked by scratches from branches, your feet blistered from uneven ground, your muscles sore, yet you push on because there is no choice. Stopping means falling behind, and falling behind means death. You might look to the sky for comfort, but even that offers little reprieve. The sun burns hot, forcing sweat to bead on your forehead, drying your throat faster than you can quench it. At other times, clouds gather, and the rain pours down, soaking your clothes, chilling you to the bone. You have no waterproof jacket, no change of clothes. You huddle beneath trees, hoping for cover, but the water seeps in any way, and when the rain stops, the cold lingers, and your body shivers for hours as you try to shake the damp from your bones. As the evening approaches, the work does not end. Fire must be built anew, carefully tended, guarded like treasure. Without it, the night will be unbearable. Without it, predators grow bold. You gather wood, searching for dry sticks in a world that is rarely dry. You crouch low, striking stones, or twisting sticks, your arms trembling with effort. Smoke curls, sparks catch, and finally a flame flickers to life. Relief floods you. Fire is not just warm, it is hope. Around it, you and your companions gather, faces lit orange, shadows dancing on the walls of your cave. For a moment, there is comfort. For a moment, you almost forget the hardship. But nightfall brings its own trials. The darkness is thick, absolute, pressing against the small glow of the fire. Beyond its circle, the forest is alive with unseen movement. Eyes gleam in the blackness, predators circling, testing, waiting. The howls of wolves echo, chilling your spine. You huddle closer to the fire, clutching your meager weapons, praying the flames burn through the night. Sleep comes in fits, broken by fear, hunger, and cold. You close your eyes only to snap them open at the sound of a branch breaking nearby. This is not rest, this is survival. And by the time dawn comes, you are not refreshed. You are drained, weary, and already dreading. The cycle beginning again. For a caveman, life is not measured in comfort or joy. It is measured in moments stolen from death moments where you eat enough, drink enough, and avoid disaster long enough to see another sunrise. And so you begin to understand, one day is not a triumph, it is a miracle, and lasting even that long requires strength, knowledge, and endurance beyond what you imagine. When the sun rises again, you realize something sobering. There is no such thing as leisure. The word rest belongs to another age, to another life, to another world. As a caveman, every waking moment is bent toward survival. Your body is not your own. It belongs to the demands of hunger, thirst, and the group. The morning is not spent stretching in a warm bed or sipping something to ease you awake. It begins with your companions shaking you from shallow sleep, eyes already scanning the tree line, voices low and urgent. It is time to move. The place that sheltered you last night is no longer safe. Movement is constant. You carry what little you own: stone tools, a bundle of sticks, scraps of hide, and you move across uneven ground, pushing through brush, climbing over rocks, slogging through mud. Each step aches, blisters burst and sting. Your back bows under the small weight of your possessions, because nothing here is made for comfort, and there is no choice to stay behind. A lone caveman is a dead caveman. The group moves together, or it dies apart. Hunger is a constant shadow. You do not wake to breakfast waiting. You wake to the emptiness of your stomach gnawing at you. You lick your lips and glance around, hoping for berries, for roots, for anything. But nothing is simple. Every calorie comes at a cost. To eat means to search. To search means to expose yourself to danger. And sometimes, the effort of searching yields nothing at all. You walk for hours, and the only thing you gain is more. Exhaustion. The children of the group whimper, their small faces drawn tight, their legs stumbling. You might feel compassion, but there is no mercy in this world. A hungry child slows the group, risks attracting predators, risks death. You watch as the adults try to soothe them, not with soft blankets or sweet food, but with patience and a hard resolve. The children must learn early what you are only beginning to grasp. Weakness is not tolerated here, not by the world itself. Water is another battle. You may think rivers and streams are easy to find, but they are not always nearby, and they are not always safe. Sometimes the water is foul, tainted by animals upstream. You kneel, scoop it in your hands, drink deeply, and later, your stomach twists with pain. There are no purifiers, no filters, no clean taps to turn. Water is both gift and gamble. You drink because you must, and you pay whatever price comes with it. Heat gnaws at you during the day. The sun beats down and your skin prickles, reddens, burns. You have no sunscreen, no white hat to shield you. Your sweat drips, your throat cracks, your head aches with dizziness. The air shimmers with heat, and the ground radiates it back at you. The group pushes forward anyway, because stopping means exposing yourself to predators, to thirst, to exhaustion. There is no shade long enough, no shelter safe enough to pause for too long. And then the weather turns. Clouds gather suddenly. The wind howls, and the rain lashes down. There is no sturdy house, no umbrella. You crouch beneath what shelter you can find, perhaps the hollow of a tree. Perhaps a shallow cave-on to shiver as water soaks you through. Your clothes cling cold to your skin. Your teeth chatter, your muscles seize. Fire is nearly impossible to build in such conditions. And when the storm passes, you are not dry. You remain damp, chilled, aching, the weight of wet skins heavy on your shoulders. Injury hovers around every corner. You stub your toe against a rock, and the nail tears bleeding into the dirt. You scrape your leg against sharp stone, and the cut opens wide. You fall, and your ankle twists beneath you. These are small accidents in your time, things fixed in, days with medicine and care. But here, every small wound is a door for death to creep in. Dirt fills the cut, infection festers, pus seeps, fever rises, and the group looks at you with a mix of pity and pragmatism. If you cannot keep up, you will be left behind, and always the predators stalk. At night, you hear their howls, their growls, their roars echoing through the darkness. By day, you spot their tracks in the mud, their scat near waterholes, the shredded remains of their prey hanging in the trees. The knowledge that they are near presses on your mind like a stone. You are not the top of the food chain here. You are meat. You clutch your spear tighter, but in your heart you know, if they come, if they strike, you cannot outrun them, cannot outfight them. Your only hope is the fire, the group, and luck. When the group finally makes a kill, there is no feasting, no celebration as you might imagine. There is blood, there is fear, there is exhaustion. The animal thrashes, cries out, and finally falls. Silent, you approach it cautiously, hands shaking, eyes darting. You cut it open with stone blades, the smell of iron and bile filling the air. The meat is divided quickly, eaten raw or roasted hastily over flames, tough and stringy, but life-giving. Grease drips down your chin, blood smears your fingers, but you eat anyway, because tomorrow you may have nothing, and still, the food is never enough. Hunger is never truly gone. Even after eating, you want more, you need more. The group is always chasing, always searching, always desperate. You cannot store food for long. Meat spoils, plants wilt, fire dies. Every day is a cycle of seeking, failing, and sometimes, just sometimes, succeeding enough to survive. At night, the fire crackles and the group huddles close. Shadows play across the walls. Stories are whispered in low voices, not of dreams or fantasies, but of warnings. Elders recount what plants to avoid, what animals to fear, what rivers run dry in summer. Knowledge is not a luxury, it is life itself, and you, the outsider, have none of it. You sit silent, eyes wide, heart pounding, realizing that even in this small circle of light, you are out of place as the stars glitter overhead. Impossibly bright in a sky untouched by city lights, you lie awake, shivering in the cold. You feel the earth beneath you, hard and unyielding, every rock pressing against your skin. You hear the crackle of fire, the distant howls, the rustling in the dark. And you understand fully now, this is not a life of adventure. This is not a world of simplicity. This is a life balanced on the knife's edge of survival, and you are not ready for it. Sleep is a cruel trick in this age. It comes only when exhaustion overwhelms you, and even then it is broken and shallow. Every sound in the night pries your eyes open. The snap of a twig, the growl carried by the wind, the whisper of rain against leaves, each one drags you back to wakefulness, heart racing. There are no locked doors, no walls, no ceilings to separate you from the world. You are exposed, and the world is merciless. Your dreams, when they come, are not gentle escapes. They are restless flashes of hunger, of fear, of running through the trees with something chasing just beyond sight. You wake with sweat cold on your skin, body shivering despite the closeness of the fire. And when morning comes again, there is no sense of renewal. You rise, not refreshed, but drained. A night in the life of a caveman does not restore, it erodes. The bonds within the group are your only lifeline, but even they are fragile. You rely on one another for warmth, for protection, for food, yet resources are scarce, and jealousy breeds quickly. You notice sharp glances when you take a larger bite, muttered words when you move too slowly. In this world, trust is never absolute. A hungry companion might share with you today and abandon you tomorrow. Kinship is not guaranteed safety, only a temporary alliance. Survival weighs heavier than loyalty. Fire becomes your most precious possession. Without it, the night is unbearable, the cold unrelenting, the predators bolder. But fire is fickle. One storm, one slip, one careless moment, and it dies. You remember the frantic effort to coax a spark from stone, hands raw and trembling, smoke stinging your eyes. You remember blowing gently, desperately, until the ember caught, until flames finally licked upward and heat returned. That fire is not just warmth, it is your heartbeat, your shield, your only barrier against the darkness. Lose it, and you are already lost. The silence of the wilderness is not the silence you know. It is heavy, pressing, filled with unseen presence. The forest does not hum with human life, no distant cars or voices or electricity buzzing. Instead, it is filled with the cries of creatures unknown to you, the constant rustle of leaves, the faint trickle of distant water. At times it feels peaceful, but then you realize this quiet is not safety. It is a reminder that you are alone, small and fragile in a world not built for you. Your body changes quickly under this strain. Muscles ache, ribs show beneath your skin, sores crack on your feet. The softness of modern life is stripped away. In days, your hands blister and harden from clutching rough tools. Your back stiffens from sleeping on stone and dirt. Your skin bears scratches, bruises, and scars that never quite heal. Survival is not just a state of mind, it reshapes you, breaks you down, makes you something rougher, something harsher. Yet even so, you remain weaker than those around you. You are untrained, untested, unprepared, and the mind suffers as much as the body. Loneliness seeps in, even surrounded by the group. They have rituals, sounds, gestures that bind them. You, in your modern mind, cannot fully join. Their laughter is strange, their warnings incomprehensible, their bonds unreachable. You sit among them, but apart from them. The realization grows, like a sickness in your chest. You do not belong here. You are not of this time, not of this people. And the land itself seems to know it by the end of the day. Your entire being is consumed by one truth. Survival is not heroic, it is grinding. It is not the noble struggle painted in stories, but the endless repetition of need and danger, over and over again. Your body longs for comfort it will never have. Your heart yearns for safety that does not exist. And your mind, stretched to its limits, whispers the thought you cannot ignore. You would not last here, not a day, not a week. The world of the caveman does not welcome you. It tests you, breaks you, and discards you. And as the fire flickers low and the night presses close, you finally admit it too are already at the edge of defeat. The morning comes, not with the sound of alarm clocks or sunlight spilling gently through curtains, but with the first sharp chill that seeps into your bones as the fire dies low. Your eyes open to a grey sky overhead, streaked with pale dawn, light, and the rough shapes of bodies curled beside you. There is no time to stretch, no time to linger. The day begins instantly with survival. Hunger gnaws the moment you rise, a constant companion that shapes every decision, every step. The group stirs around you, some moving with quiet urgency, others already slipping away into the trees. Tasks are not written, not assigned, but understood. Each member has a role, forged through necessity, not choice. The older ones tend to the embers, blowing life into them, feeding them with twigs, desperate to coax flame before the cold sinks too deep. Others prepare to hunt, gripping spears sharpened with care, their eyes already scanning the tree line for movement, and some, mostly women and children, begin the endless task of foraging, seeking berries, roots, nuts, anything that might keep hunger at bay that you try to follow, but your steps are clumsy. You stumble over rocks and branches, your ears straining to pick out sounds in the forest. Every movement feels loud to you, but to them it is silence. They move with the rhythm of the land, blending with it, while you stand out like a foreign body, and the truth stings. You are not a part of this world. You are only an intruder here, unskilled, unsteady, and vulnerable. The hunters leave first, slipping into the trees with a kind of quiet precision you cannot hope to match. Their bodies are lean, muscles taut from years of strain, eyes sharp, from constant vigilance. They move together like wolves, each understanding without words how to spread, how to stalk, how to close in. They have done this countless times. For them, the hunt is not just about food, is survival woven into their very being. For you, it is an alien ritual, one where the stakes are so high you can feel the weight pressing on your chest. Foraging seems easier, but it is not. You wander with the gatherers, scanning the forest floor for signs of edible plants. Every leaf looks the same, every berry uncertain. They know instinctively what can be eaten, what must be avoided, what might poison. Their hands pluck roots from soil with practiced skill, stripping away the dirt, testing the texture, the smell. Yours fumble, you hesitate. You realize quickly how dangerous ignorance is one. Wrong bite and sickness will claim you faster than hunger ever could. The hours pass in this slow, grinding effort. The sun climbs higher, but there is no sense of comfort in its warmth. The weight of hunger grows heavier, your body weaker. The cavemen endure it silently, but you feel it as an ache in your gut, an emptiness that will not fade. And then, at last, a sound in the distance, a call, sharp and urgent. The hunters return. They come carrying what at first seems small, a rabbit, its body limp, fur matted with blood. To you, it feels like a meager prize, but here it is life. The group gathers quickly, hands reaching, voices murmuring. The animal is skinned with rough tools, its meat divided carefully. Nothing is wasted, not the bones, not the hide, not the sinew. Each part is claimed for purpose, every scrap of flesh divided to ensure no one is left with nothing. And when, at last, you taste the meat, roasted over flame, it is unlike anything you have known. Not in flavor, but in meaning. It is survival, raw and immediate. But the meal is not enough. It fills only for a moment, leaving hunger waiting at the edges. You realize then that food is never a guarantee. A successful hunt is not a triumph, but a brief reprieve. Tomorrow, the same struggle will return, the same gnawing hunger, the same desperate need. There is no rest, no abundance, no certainty. The only constant is the grind of survival. Yet it is not just the body that suffers. It is the mind. The repetition, the uncertainty, the constant shadow of danger it wears you down. Your thoughts circle endlessly around fear and need. Will there be enough food tomorrow? Will predators come tonight? Will sickness strike the group? These questions never leave. They are the drumbeat of existence, pounding with every step, every breath. And as they echo in your mind, you feel the edges of your sanity bend. By midday, the exhaustion is already unbearable. The body craves rest, but the world allows none. There are shelters to repair, tools to sharpen, water to fetch, fires to tend. Every moment has purpose, and every failure has consequence. If you do not work, you do not eat. If you do not fight, you do not live. There is no safety net, no cushion, no second chance. And in that rhythm, in that merciless cycle, you begin to see the truth of why you could not last here. It is not only the cold nights or the wild beasts, it is the endlessness of it, the crushing demand of survival that never pauses, never eases. In the world of the caveman, there are no breaks, no comforts, no luxuries. Only the raw, unrelenting struggle to make it through the next hour, the next night, the next day. As the day drags on, fatigue does not only gnaw at the body, it begins to seep into the mind. In the modern world, hunger is fleeting, discomfort is temporary, and loneliness can be eased with the flick of a switch or the sound of a voice on a phone. But in the world of the caveman, hunger lingers like a shadow, discomfort never leaves, and loneliness is not a feeling but a death sentence. Survival is a group effort, yet the group itself is fragile, strained by constant scarcity. At first glance, the band of cavemen seems united, sharing food, moving together, defending each other from threats. But under the surface lies a tension born from desperation. Every bite of meat is weighed against the mouths it must feed. Every decision about who eats first, who eats more, carries consequences. If a hunter brings back too little, resentment theft. If one member consumes too much, whispers rise in the darkness. Fairness is not a luxury, here it is survival. One selfish act can unravel trust, and without trust, the group shatters. You see this dynamic unfold around you. A child cries for more food, clutching at a mother's arm. The mother looks away, offering her portion quietly, her own stomach empty, but her child's belly less so. An elder accepts only a sliver of meat, their eyes distant, their frame weakening. They know their time is limited, and in giving away what they have, they make space for the younger ones to endure. These silent sacrifices hold the group together. But they come at a price lives cut short not by predators, but by choice and necessity. Disputes are inevitable. Words are few, but tone and gesture speak loudly. A glance that lingers too long on a portion of food, a hand that hesitates before sharing, a voice raised in frustration. These moments can ignite conflict, and conflict in a world without law, without mediators, is dangerous. Arguments escalate quickly to violence, for there are no courts, no rules, no protections. The strongest often win, but winning does not always mean survival. Blood spilled within the group weakens everyone, making them vulnerable to the world outside. You watch one such quarrel unfold. A young man claims a larger share of roasted rabbit, insisting he played a part in the hunt. Another argues it belongs to the hunters alone. Their voices rise, sharp and guttural, their movements tense. Others gather, eyes flicking nervously, prepared for blows. But the elder, thin and weary, steps between them. With a calm authority, he seizes the meat, divides it evenly, and places it back into their hands. The fight dissolves, but the tension lingers. This balance, you realize, is fragile ways one spark away from collapse. Beyond food, there is the weight of fear. Fear binds the group, but it also cracks them. Predators lurk at the edges of camphor. Eyes of wolves glint in the firelight. Shadows rustle in the brush, and the distant roar of a big cat reminds everyone that they are prey as much as predator. The fire offers a circle of light, but beyond it lies uncertainty, and uncertainty breeds paranoia. Who keeps watch? Who do you trust to wake you if danger comes? Who will risk their life if the pack attacks? Each question gnaws at you as you watch them huddle closer, shoulders pressed together, as if sheer proximity could keep the darkness away. The mind, already worn thin by hunger, bends under this constant tension. You find yourself jumpy, your thoughts spiraling. Every crack of a branch is a threat. Every silence feels heavier, stretched by the possibility of something unseen. Sleep is shallow, broken by jolts of fear. Dreams, when they come, are haunted by visions of pursuit, fangs in the night, claws in the dark, fire extinguished by wind and rain. The cavemen endured this, not for a day, but for every day of their lives. It is a rhythm of vigilance that you, unaccustomed to such relentless stress, cannot sustain. Relationships within the group carry their own burdens. Bonds form out of necessity, familial, romantic, or simply practical. But these bonds, too, are strained by survival. Love is not a concept nurtured with words and gestures. It is proven by sacrifice, by giving food, by standing guard, by sharing warmth. Jealousy and rivalry are inevitable. Two men may vie for the attention of a woman, not out of luxury, but because she represents survival. The chance of continuing the line. Two women may clash over who receives more help, whose children are fed first. These conflicts are as primal as the hunt itself. You witnessed a mother scolding her child for wandering too far, fear etched in her voice. The danger is real. One careless step away from the group, and the child could vanish into the forest, taken by predators or swallowed by the elements. Family here is not cushioned by safety, it is sharpened by risk. Every moment carries the weight of life and death. The loss of even one member weakens the whole, not just emotionally, but physically. For every pair of hands matters, and beneath all of this lies an unspoken truth. No one is indispensable, and yet everyone is. The band survives only as long as each person fulfills their role. A hunter too injured to walk becomes a burden. An elder too weak to contribute becomes a liability. In the harshest seasons, choices are made silently. The weakest may be left behind, the sick abandoned. It is not cruelty. It is survival, brutal and necessary. But it is a cruelty you cannot stomach, a reality you cannot reconcile with your modern mind by nightfall. As the fire crackles low and the group curls together again, you realize something chilling. It is not the predators that would destroy you, nor the cold, nor even the hunger. It is the relentless strain of living with others in a world where every bite, every breath is contested. The human mind, so used to comfort and abundance, would shatter under the weight of such constant fear, conflict, and sacrifice. The cavemen endure it because they know no other way. You, however, would not last a day. The earth itself was the greatest adversary of the caveman. It is one thing to live in a home, shielded by walls and warmed by fire, but quite another to exist in a landscape where every gust of wind can steal your warmth, and every shift in the weather can mean the difference between survival and death. When the dawn breaks, it is not gentle. The air is cold, raw and damp, seeping into your bones with a chill you cannot shake. You look to the horizon and see fog rolling low across the valley, clinging to the earth like a heavy shroud. Each breath you take stings your lungs, and your skin, unprotected by layered clothing, feels exposed, vulnerable, raw against the bite of the wind. For the caveman, this was not an inconvenience. This was daily life. Winter, especially, was merciless. Imagine the season without houses, without blankets, without heated food on demand. The snow piles high, blinding and suffocating, and every step through it is a drain on energy. Your breath turns to ice on your lips. You huddle near the fire, but the fire is small, flickering, fragile against the vastness of the cold. Wood is scarce, hard to find beneath frozen ground, and each branch collected costs you precious strength. The caveman must decide whether to risk frostbite in the search or conserve energy and risk freezing in place. Both choices are deadly, and when storms strike, the earth transforms into a prison. Rain lashes at the skin, soaking fur and leather until they cling, heavy and useless. Water floods, caves, turns trails into mud traps, and douses the precious fire that guards against predators. Lightning cracks through the black sky, splitting trees, setting small fires in the distance. The cavemen crouch low, shielding children, with their bodies, eyes wide with fear at a world that offers no mercy. The storm does not pass quickly. Hours turn to days. The group grows weaker with each passing moment. Food wet and spoiled, bodies shivering, eyes haunted by exhaustion. The heat of summer is no kinder. Without shade, the sun burns relentlessly. Skin blisters under its gaze, thirst sharpens into a torment, and the river, once full, shrinks to a trickle. Water becomes a treasure more valuable than meat, and journeys grow longer, more perilous, as the group treks across cracked earth, searching for it. Every mouthful must be rationed. Every decision is weighed carefully: how much to give to the children, how much to hold back for the hunters. Misjudgment here is not a mistake. It is death. And yet, the cavemen must move constantly, never truly settled, because the earth offers no permanence. Seasons shift, herds migrate, rivers dry, Predators claim territory. Staying too long in one place means dwindling resources, increasing danger, and certain death. The ground beneath your feet is never truly hermit, is only a temporary reprieve before the journey begins again. Imagine walking barefoot across rough stone, thorns piercing the soles of your feet, sharp grasses cutting your ankles, and knowing this is not a choice but a necessity. Blisters burst, blood seeps, and still you move forward because to stay is worse. Nightfall brings its own horrors. The sky darkens quickly, swallowing the land in blackness. Unlike the modern world, lit by lamps, electricity, and glowing screens, the caveman's night is an abyss. Only the stars and the fragile flame of fire break the darkness. Every sound magnifies in the silence: the snap of a twig, the growl of a distant predator, the cry of something unseen. Sleep comes in fits, shallow and restless, for there is no trust in the night. You wake often, heart pounding, unsure if the growl you heard was real or dreamed. In this world, dreams and reality blur, both equally terrifying. Hunger gnaws deeper as nature withholds her generosity. Winter kills the plants, summer withers them. The rivers run thin, the herds migrate beyond reach, and berries disappear from the bushes. Each season forces adaptation, and adaptation demands suffering. The caveman learned to eat things you would never consider: roots pulled from frozen soil, insects gathered under rotting logs, marrow cracked from brittle bones. You, with your modern palate, gag at the thought. They, with no choice, swallow and endure. The environment is not only a stage. For their struggle it is an active, merciless force. A sudden flood can sweep away an entire group, leaving no trace but broken branches downstream. An avalanche of rock or snow can bury caves in silence, lives extinguished without warning. Fire, so precious, can also turn traitor, leaping beyond control, devouring the dry grass and forest in furious waves, forcing the group to scatter into the open, exposed, vulnerable. Nature provides, but only with one hand. With the other, it takes mercilessly. Even the ground beneath them is dangerous. Disease lurks in the water they drink, unseen but devastating. Mud sucks at their legs, swallowing those too weak to pull. Free, sharp stones cut their feet, wounds that fester in the absence of medicine. Insects bite relentlessly, carrying sickness. A simple cut, ignored, can become a death sentence as infection spreads unseen through the body. The cavemen know nothing of bacteria or parasites, they only know the symptoms. The fevers, the weakness, and the slow decline that robs them of strength. And yet, despite all this, the group endures. It is almost incomprehensible to you, sitting within their world, watching them push through conditions that would break you in hours. Their bodies hardened by generations, their minds sharpened by necessity, adapt where yours falter. What feels unbearable to you is familiar to them. Where you see only despair, they see challenge. Where you would give up, they continue by. The end of the day, as you stagger and collapse near the fire, every muscle trembling, every nerve frayed, you realize the truth. The earth is not their enemy, is their teacher, their judge, and their master. And to survive as a caveman is not to conquer the land, but to bend to it, to endure its cruelty without breaking. That is the lesson they live by, the rhythm of their existence. And for you, unprepared and unwilling, that lesson is one you would not survive long enough to learn. The caveman's life was not just a battle of body, but also of spirit. Imagine a world so unforgiving that each day feels like a gamble, each night like a victory. In such a place, survival is not only about muscles and hunger, it is about belief. It is about the fragile threads of hope that hold the mind together when the body aches to collapse. And this is where ritual, myth, and fire emerge not luxuries, but necessities for the soul. The fire is at the center of it all. To you, fire. Is a tool something convenient, flicked into existence with a spark from a lighter or the press of a button? To them, it is life itself, fragile, miraculous, and terrifying. Without fire, there is only darkness, only cold, only hunger unbroken by cooked food. Around the flames, they gather, faces lit in flickering orange, shadows dancing across the walls of the cave. It is more than warmth. It is safety. The predators of the night keep their distance. The smoke drives away insects. The heat dries wet skins, soothes aching bones, keeps the children from shivering. But the fire is never taken for granted. Each ember must be guarded carefully, like a newborn child. If it goes out, there is no quick way to bring it back. Rubbing wood, striking stone, these are skills, yes, but they are also exhausting, slow, uncertain. A single careless mistake, a gust of wind, a sudden storm, can erase the group's fragile lifeline. And so, one or two sit awake through the night, tending it, feeding it, whispering prayers to it. In their minds, the fire is alive, a spirit of its own, one that demands respect and care. The rituals that form around the fire are as vital as the flames themselves. After a successful hunt, the cavemen do not simply eat, they tell stories. A hunter gestures wildly, mimicking the chase, the clash, the fall of the beast. Others grunt in approval, clap hands, or chant in rhythm. These retellings are not only entertainment, they are instruction, memory, and myth woven together. The children learn by watching. The adults strengthen bonds by sharing the story. And slowly, the group builds its own identity, its own meaning. In a world that otherwise offers nothing but struggle, the myths grow in the darkness. They look to the stars above, glittering cold in the night sky, and wonder what they mean. They see faces in the moon, patterns in the constellations, shapes in the clouds. To you, it is imagination. To them, it is guidance. Perhaps the stars tell when to hunt, when to move, when the rains will come. Perhaps the spirits of their ancestors live there, watching, judging, guiding. Every flicker of light, every sound. In the forest, every shape in the shadows becomes a story, a meaning, a warning. In this way, they fight against the chaos. They give names to fear, faces to danger, and in doing so, they make it bearable. And there are deeper rituals, to ones tied to death. Imagine, for a moment, the grief of losing one of your own in such a harsh world. To you, grief is surrounded by ceremony, coffins, cemeteries, words of comfort, time to heal. For them, there is none of this. Death is swift, sudden, constant. A child who sickens in the night, an elder who grows too weak to walk, a hunter who does not return each loss. Cuts deep, but life demands continuation. Still, they do not leave it empty. They bury their dead with care, covering them with stones, with flowers, with offerings. They whisper words, not fully language yet, but filled with meaning. Words meant to soothe, to honor, to keep the spirit close. This is the root of religion, born from the need to make sense of pain. Firelight rituals become more elaborate in times of fear. A storm rages outside. the sky roaring with thunder, the earth trembling with its power. Inside, the group huddles together, chanting low, swaying, pounding rhythm into the ground with sticks or hands. The rhythm unites them, strengthens them, gives them courage against the forces beyond their control. They are powerless to stop the storm, but they can give themselves the illusion of control, the comfort of solidarity. In that moment, their voices rise against the chaos, and the fear lessens, if only slightly. To you, this might look primitive. To them, it is survival of the mind. Imagine living without distraction, no books, no screens, no music except the sounds you make yourself. The silence of the wilderness is heavy, oppressive, almost unbearable. Without ritual, without myth, without story, the silence would crush you. But with it, they find rhythm. They find meaning. They find just enough hope to rise again the next day. Yet hope is fragile. Despair hovers constantly, waiting for weakness. You, as an outsider, would feel it quickly. Hunger sharpens into hopelessness. Cold seeps into anger. The endless repetition of struggle wears the mind thin. In your modern life, you fight boredom with entertainment. The caveman has no such escape. Instead, despair is fought with togetherness, with chants, with shared stories, with the unbreakable belief that the spirits, the ancestors, the fire are with them. To lose belief is to collapse, and collapse is death. It is easy to underestimate the emotional strength required to live as a caveman. Every sound could mean death. Every shadow could hide a predator. Every day could be the last. The constant state of alertness is exhausting, draining, unbearable to your modern mind. Anxiety would crush you within hours. Paranoia would unravel you within days. But the caveman has no choice. They live in that heightened state, balancing on the knife edge between vigilance and madness. Their rituals are the rope that holds them steady. By the end of the night, as the fire burns low and the group drifts into uneasy sleep, you realize that survival here is not just about food or shelter. It is about spirit. It is about finding meaning where there is none, creating order where there is only chaos. The fire is more than flame. The chant is more than noise. The myth is more than story. These are the pillars that hold the human mind upright in a world determined to break it. Without them, even the strongest body would fail. And so, as you imagine yourself in their place, you come to a quiet truth. You would not only fail to survive the cold, the hunger, the predators, you would fail to survive the despair. The caveman, for all their hardships, discovered a secret. That survival is not merely a matter of body, but of spirit. And without that spirit, without that bond of ritual and myth, you would not last a single day. If you imagine a caveman's life as only hunting beasts and lighting fires, you miss perhaps the greatest challenge of all: other people. Survival is not a solitary act. It cannot be, not in a world this brutal. No single man or woman could survive alone against the elements, the predators, the hunger. And so, people gathered. Families became small bands. Bands grew into tribes. They lived together, but living together in such a world was not easy. It required cooperation, but also constant negotiation of power, jealousy, and survival instincts. Picture a band of 20 or so, huddled in a cave or gathered in a clearing. Everyone has a role, whether they choose it or not. The strongest hunters bring back meat, but they cannot live on meat alone. Others are tasked with gathering roots, fruits, or herbs. Some prepare skins for clothing, others tend the fire. The old though weaker, share their knowledge. Water can be found when the animals migrate, how to cure a sickness with plants. Even children have tasks, gathering small firewood or watching for predators while adults work. This delicate system only works because each person contributes, and yet it is also filled with tension. The hunter who risks his life for the group may resent sharing his prize equally. The gatherer who spends hours digging for roots may feel cheated when the meat is divided. Greed, pride, and jealousy fester, and in a world with so little abundance, small slights feel enormous. A piece of meat too small, a careless insult, an overlooked contribution, these can spark conflict. Leadership exists, but it is not like the kings or presidents you know today. There is no crown, no throne, no permanent seat of power. Leadership in a caveman band is fragile, shifting, and constantly tested. Often it is the strongest hunter who commands respect, not because he demands it, but because he proves himself. He brings food, he protects the group, he survives when others might fall. But if he falters, if he grows weak, if his judgment fails, others will rise. Leadership is not inherited. It is earned and lost, sometimes within days. This creates a strange balance: respect and fear, loyalty and rivalry. The leader must lead, but not push too far. If he hoards too much, if he acts selfishly, the group will turn on him. And the group's judgment is swift and merciless. In some bands, the selfish man might be cast out, left to wander alone. To you, exile may sound like a punishment. To them, it is a death sentence. Alone, you cannot survive long, and so, the fear of being cast out keeps tempers in check, forces cooperation, and binds people together even when resentments simmer. Conflict still erupts, often violently. Imagine a firelit cave, tension rising as a man insists he deserves more for his efforts in the hunt. Voices grow loud, hands fly, and soon it is a brawl, fists pounding, bodies grappling in the dirt. The group watches, tense, letting it play out. There are no courts, no laws, no written codes. There is only instinct and the will of the majority. Sometimes the fighters exhaust themselves, and peace resumes. Sometimes one is beaten badly, a lesson burned into his skin. Other times, in a burst of rage, a weapon is lifted and blood is spilled. Justice is not organized, is immediate, unpredictable, raw, and yet, despite these eruptions, cooperation endures. It must. For every fight that divides, there are moments of unity that heal. A successful hunt brings joy, laughter, feasting. A birth is celebrated, the child passed from hand to hand, hope for the group's future. A death unites them in mourning. They sing together, chant together, comfort one another. These bonds are fragile, but they are real. Without them, the group would dissolve, and dissolution is death. The role of women in these groups is equally vital. Often modern minds imagine them passive, waiting for hunters to return. But in truth, women's work is the foundation of survival. They gather the majority of daily food, roots, berries, plants that sustain the group when hunting fails. They care for the children, they prepare food, they preserve fire, and their knowledge of plants, of seasons, of cycles, is just as crucial as the hunter's spear. The balance between men and women is not simple hierarchy, it is symbiosis. Each role depends on the other, and without both, the group collapses. Children, too, grow up fast in this world. There are no years of idle play. no protected innocence. From the time they can walk, they are expected to help. They fetch water, gather wood, watch the fire. They mimic the adults, learning by doing, preparing to take on full roles long before they reach what you would consider adulthood. By the age of 10, a child is already expected to contribute like a young adult. For there is no luxury of delay, but the bonds of affection are there, even in this harsh world. Parents protect their children fiercely, sharing food even when it means going hungry themselves. The old are cared for, not discarded, for their knowledge is too valuable. Bonds of love, though unspoken in words you would recognize, flow through the group. A child's laughter around the fire, a mother's song as she soothes her baby, a father's pride after a hunt. These are threads of humanity as old as time. Still, as you imagine yourself dropped into such a group, you would struggle. Your instincts are shaped by laws, by culture, by comfort. You expect fairness, rules, and protection. But here, fairness is brutal. You eat what you earn. You keep your place by proving your worth. There is no sympathy for weakness, no patience for those who cannot carry their share. You, unused to this relentless pressure, would find yourself overwhelmed quickly. The looks of suspicion, the whispered doubts, the fear of being cast out all would weigh heavily. You would find yourself an outsider, tolerated at best, distrusted at worst. And in this world, distrust can be fatal. In the end, the cave's greatest predator is not always the beast outside the cave. Sometimes, it is the tension within the fragile balance of trust and fear that keeps the group alive. And you, stepping into that fragile web, would find it impossible to navigate. You would falter, stumble, and soon discover that surviving the wilderness is only half the battle. Surviving each other is the other half, and perhaps it is the harder one. If you woke up one morning in a caveman's body, your first shock would not be the cave, or the fire, or even the smell of animal hides. It would be the absence of time. There are no clocks, no alarms, no watches to check, no calendars pinned to the wall. Time itself is a fluid thing, measured not in minutes and seconds, but in shadows, hunger, and instinct. For cavemen, the rhythm of life is guided by the sun, the moon, the seasons, and the immediate needs of survival. The day begins with the first light creeping across the horizon. The cave stirs not because a clock demands it, but because the cold of night recedes and the warmth of dawn beckons. Children whimper for food, embers in the fire grow faint, and stomachs growl. Rising early is not a choice, is a necessity. Fire must be fed, water fetched, food sought. Sleep is precious, but it is never indulgent. You sleep when it is safe, and you wake when the world demands it. Morning often begins with gathering. The women, and sometimes children, move into the brush, scanning the ground for roots, mushrooms, berries. They know the signs of edible plants, the difference between nourishment and poison. Their eyes are trained to catch the faintest clues, a certain leaf shape, the smell of soil, the way birds gather near a fruit tree. It is a skill honed over generations, passed from mother to daughter, from elder to child, and it is as vital as any weapon. Without gathering, the group starves. Meanwhile, hunters prepare. The spears are checked, sharpened against stone, repaired if the tips are broken. Stone tools are fragile, and each hunt risks breaking one. A broken spear could mean death, so care is taken. They paint their bodies with ash or mud, sometimes as camouflage, sometimes as ritual. Then they set out, often in small groups, silent, tense, scanning the landscape. The hunt is not a daily certainty, is a gamble. Some days, they return, triumphant with meat. Other days, they return with nothing, hungry and frustrated, knowing tomorrow must bring better luck. Afternoon brings the rhythm of maintenance. Skins are stretched and scraped to become clothing. Bones are carved into tools or ornaments. Meat, if there is any, must be cut and cooked, or dried and smoked for later. Children gather wood, feed the fire, chase each other in short bursts of play that look more like training, mimicking the adults, throwing sticks like spears, climbing rocks to test their strength. Even their games prepare them for survival. And then there is rest, but not the kind of rest you imagine. There are no couches, no cushions, no idle scrolling of a screen. Rest is sitting quietly near the fire, mending tools, picking at food, listening to stories. Elders speak of the past, teaching not through books, but through memory. Stories are not entertainment alone, they are survival lessons, disguised as myths. A tale about a spirit that punishes the greedy may be, in truth. A warning about hoarding food. A story about an ancestor who wandered too far from camp and never returned may serve as a reminder to respect the dangers beyond the known land. The evening falls quickly, and with it, danger. Predators stir at night, and darkness is an enemy. In itself, the fire must be kept alive, for light is safety. Cavemen gather close, eyes darting to the shadows beyond the flames. The night is alive with sounds, the distant cry of wolves, the rustle of unseen movement in the brush, the low growl of a cat on the hunt. Fear is constant, and vigilance never rests. To fall asleep too deeply is to risk not waking at all. Sleep, when it comes, is not in long, uninterrupted stretches. It is shallow, broken, uneasy. One wakes, feeds the fire, listens for danger, then drifts back into slumber. The group often sleeps in shifts, some always awake, others dozing. Safety lies not in walls or locks, but in numbers, in the shared watchfulness. Of the band, the seasons impose their rhythm as well. Spring and summer bring abundance. Areas ripen, animals are fat. Fish teem in rivers. Food is easier, though never effortless. Autumn is preparation, gathering what can be stored, drying. Meat, crafting warmer clothing. Winter is terror. The cold seeps into bones. The land goes barren, and every day is a fight against hunger. Firewood becomes as precious as food, and many do not survive the season. For cavemen, the year is not a circle of months, but a cycle of life and death, each season pressing its weight upon them. To you, used to routines shaped by alarms and deadlines, this world would feel alien. There is no free time. Leisure exists only in small pockets, snatched between the endless tasks of survival. Every action is purposeful, every moment accounted for by necessity. If you sat idly, doing nothing, you would be noticed, resented, perhaps punished. To contribute nothing is to endanger the group, and no group can afford a useless member. And yet, despite the harshness, there is beauty in this rhythm. The crackle of fire under the stars, the laughter of children weaving between. Adults, the smell of roasting meat, the soft hum of stories shared by firelight. These moments of peace are deeply human. They remind you that cavemen were not just struggling bodies. They were families, communities, bound by love and fear alike. If you tried to live a single day in this rhythm, you would stumble. Your soft hands would fumble with roots. Your legs would ache from endless walking. Your ears would strain at every rustle in the night. You would crave the certainty of clocks, the promise of comfort, the luxury of safety. And you would discover very quickly that a caveman's day is not a day as you know it. It is survival, stretched from dawn to dusk, repeated endlessly, until the seasons change or death comes quietly in the night. When the world around you is raw, untamed, and merciless, you begin to search for meaning in its chaos. Cavemen, with no science, no books, no formal explanations, turned instinctively to symbols, stories, and rituals. Their spirituality was not organized religion, but it was powerful, rooted in the struggle to understand life, death, and the forces they could not see. Imagine standing in the mouth of a cave at night. The sky above is crowded with stars, brighter and more countless than anything visible in a modern city. Lightning flashes on the horizon, thunder rolls, wolves howl in the distance. To you, with your knowledge of weather patterns, electricity, and astronomy, it's a natural display. To a caveman, it is the voice of something greater: spirits, gods, ancestors. Every rumble, every flash is alive with meaning. Rituals begin. In small acts, a hunter places a fragment of bone beside the fire before a hunt, hoping for luck. A mother whispers over her child as she ties a string of shells around their neck, a talisman for protection. When someone dies, their body is not left in the open. It is buried carefully, with tools, food, or ornaments placed alongside them. To us, these are the earliest signs of ritualized burial. To them, it may have been a way of ensuring that the spirit had what it needed in the next life, or perhaps, more simply, it was a way to keep the presence of the dead close. Burial practices vary depending on the group and region, but across early human communities, there is evidence of reverence. Sometimes, red ochre is sprinkled over the body, symbolizing blood or life. Sometimes, the corpse is curled into a fetal position, as if returning to the womb of the earth. Fire may burn nearby, cleansing the air, warding off unseen forces. 2. Bury the dead is not only respect, it is also survival. An unburied body can attract predators, spread disease, yet the ritual transforms a practical necessity into something sacred. Caves themselves often become sacred spaces. Deep within, away from light, humans paint animals on the walls: bison, horses, deer, mammoths rendered with remarkable detail and skill. These images are not idle decoration. They are offerings, prayers, invocations of the hunt. By painting the animal, perhaps the hunter ensures success, capturing its spirit before it is captured in the flesh. Some scholars believe these paintings were part of ceremonies, with flickering torchlight bringing the images to life, turning walls into living visions. The shaman emerges in this world, not a priest in robes, but a figure who straddles the boundary between seen and unseen. The shaman may wear animal skins, antlers, or bones, embodying the creatures of the world. They chant, dance, enter trances through exhaustion or herbs. Their role is healer, guide, keeper of knowledge, the one who dares to interpret the will of the spirits. For a community beset by sickness or drought, the shaman's power is real, not because of magic, but because belief itself is a force. To believe is to find hope, and hope strengthens survival. Fire, too, holds spiritual power, more than warmth or cooking. Fire is sacred. It keeps the dark at bay, a small sun captured on earth. To lose it is disaster. To share it is an act of deep generosity. Myths are born around its stories of how the ancestors stole fire from the gods, how keeping it alive honors them. The tending of flames is not casual. It is ritualized, careful, a duty passed from one to another like a holy act. Death is not. The only mystery cavemen confront. Sickness, injury, and dreams are equally baffling. When someone falls ill, it may be seen as the work of spirits or as a punishment for breaking a taboo. Healing involves herbs, yes, but also chants, gestures, symbolic acts to restore balance. Dreams, strange and vivid, are believed to be journeys of the soul, messages from ancestors, glimpses into another realm. A dream of hunting success might send the group into the forest with confidence. A nightmare of danger might hold them back, saving lives without them even realizing it. Rituals are not confined to death and healing. They saturate daily life. Before a hunt, hunters may gather in a circle, stamping their feet, mimicking the chase, shouting and roaring to build courage. After a kill, they may thank the animal, touching its body reverently before dividing the meat. To modern eyes, this may seem strange, but to them, it is acknowledgement of the deep bond between hunter and prey, a recognition that survival requires respect as much as skill. Children are drawn into these rituals early. They sit wide-eyed as elders recount myths around the fire. They watch as offerings are made, as dances are performed. They learn that the world is not random, but filled with spirits that demand respect. In this way, ritual becomes education. It binds the community, shapes behavior, creates meaning in a life that might otherwise feel only brutal and short. If you stepped into such a world, you might scoff. You, armed with science, would see only superstition. But strip away your knowledge and place yourself in their shoes. You hear thunder, but cannot explain it. You watch someone sicken and die, with no idea of germs or infection. You dream vividly of your dead grandmother, and it feels as though she has returned. In that world, would you not believe in spirits? Would you not cling to ritual as a way of finding order in chaos? And here lies another reason you would not last a day as a caveman. Without their rituals, you would be lost, paralyzed by fear of the unknown. Without their stories, you would struggle to find courage in the hunt or solace in grief. Their spirituality is not an indulgence, it is armor woven from belief, protecting them against the crushing weight of a merciless world. In the harsh world of early humanity, survival is not only about hunting, foraging, or staying warm. It is also about people. Cavemen did not live in isolation. They lived in groups, bound together by blood, necessity, and fragile trust. Without cooperation, they would have vanished. But within that cooperation lies a story of tension, hierarchy, and fragile alliances. Picture a group of perhaps 20 to 30 individuals, men, women, children, the elderly. Each plays a role. The hunters set out at dawn, muscles taut, weapons in hand, knowing that failure could mean hunger for everyone. The gatherers comb through roots, berries, nuts, scanning for both food and danger. Mothers cradle infants, nursing them while still keeping an eye on the fire. Elders, though too frail to hunt, share stories and knowledge, mapping the land with words. Each role is essential. Remove one, and the balance falters. Yet with survival on a knife's edge, conflict is inevitable. Imagine the hunter who claims a larger share of meat, or the gatherer accused of holding back food for her own children. tension sparks easily. But here, too, ritual and social rules emerge. Sharing becomes a core value not because of kindness, but because hoarding endangers the group. To eat while others starve invites resentment, and resentment endangers unity. So food is divided carefully, portions handed out with watchful eyes. The group eats together, a gesture as much symbolic as practical. All survive or none survive. Leadership is not the throne and crown kind. It is fluid, shifting with circumstance. In the hunt, the strongest or most skilled may command. In ritual, the shaman holds sway. In disputes, the elder's wisdom is sought. Power is not absolute, is borrowed, held so long as it serves the group's survival. But with power comes danger. A leader who pushes too far, who takes too much, may find themselves abandoned. An abandonment, in the world of the caveman, is a death sentence. Children are the heartbeat of the group, yet also a burden. To carry them slows movement. To feed them drains resources. Yet they are the future, and their survival is the measure of the group's success. They are taught early how to shape stone, how to listen for danger, how to imitate the steps of the hunt. Games are more than play. They are training, shaping survival instincts. Even so, infant mortality is high. A mother may cradle a newborn one night and face its loss the next. Grief is common, yet it binds the group closer, each child's. Survival, a collective triumph. Romance, as we know it, does not exist. Pairings may form from necessity, protection, or the drive to reproduce. Bonds may be lifelong, or they may shift. Jealousy and disputes arise, but practical needs often outweigh personal desires. A woman may be claimed by a strong hunter not for love, but for security. A man may seek more than one partner if the balance of the group demands it. Harsh as it seems, these arrangements are not cold. They are survival strategies, evolving in a world where choice is limited and danger is constant. Violence simmers beneath the surface of these small societies. A dispute over food, a rivalry between hunters, a betrayal of trusties can spark deadly fights. Weapons made for hunting can turn easily against one another, but violence is costly. Every wound weakens the group, so rules emerge, unspoken yet powerful. Conflict may be resolved by exile, by ritual, or by mediation from elders. Even so, raids and clashes between groups are real. Imagine one group encountering another at a watering hole. Tension rises, weapons are brandished, a few words, a gesture, and the encounter may dissolve, peacefully or erupt into a bloody fight. Yet just as violence exists, so does compassion. Archaeological evidence shows that the sick and disabled were cared for. Bones have been found healed after serious injuries that would have killed had the person been abandoned. Someone fed them, protected them, carried them. This tells us something profound. Cavemen were not only brutal survivors, they were also capable of empathy, of seeing value in every member of the group, even those who could no longer hunt or gather. In caring for one another, they created bonds that strengthened the whole. The group itself is fragile. A bad winter, a failed hunt, an outbreak of disease, any of these can fracture unity. Some may leave, seeking a new band to join. Others may cling together more tightly, their rituals and stories intensifying in the face of fear. Trust is currency. Betrayal is ruin. And yet, in this delicate web of relationships, humanity itself begins to take shape. The shared fire, the shared story, The shared meal, these are the building blocks of society. If you were thrust into such a community, your modern sense of individuality would clash immediately. You are used to privacy, to personal choice, to possessions. In the caveman's world, nothing is truly private. The group eats together, sleeps together, moves together. Your food, your time, even your body may be claimed by the needs of the group. To resist is to isolate yourself, and isolation in the wilderness is death. You would feel suffocated, stripped of autonomy, yet for them it is the only way to survive. And so, the daily life of a caveman is not only a battle against nature, is a constant negotiation of relationships, a balancing act of cooperation and conflict. They survive not because they are stronger alone, but because they are bound together, fragile yet resilient, in the face of a world that cares nothing for their survival. The world of the caveman was never still. It shifted constantly, sometimes subtly, sometimes with crushing force. To live in such a world was to exist at the mercy of forces too vast to control and too unpredictable to anticipate. If you imagine yourself in that time, the landscape alone would overwhelm you. It is a world raw, untamed, and indifferent to human existence. Take the weather. A storm rolling across the plains is not an inconvenience, it is a life-threatening event. There are no houses to shield you, no glass windows to close, no waterproof clothing to keep you dry. The rain lashes your skin, seeping into furs that quickly become heavy, chilling you to the bone. Lightning splits the sky, thunder cracks like the roar of an angry beast, and you huddle near rocks or trees, praying the storm passes quickly. Cold nights are even worse. Without proper shelter, hypothermia can steal life quietly. Even with fire, keeping warm through the night is a struggle, especially when wood is scarce. Then there are the winters. In the colder regions, entire landscapes transform into frozen wastelands. Hunting becomes nearly impossible as herds migrate south and smaller animals burrow deep. The snow covers edible plants, masking what little nourishment the earth might provide. Hunger gnaws relentlessly. Imagine trudging through knee-deep drifts, your breath freezing in the air, your stomach empty, your hands raw and cracked. Every step demands energy you cannot spare. For cavemen, winter was not a season to be endured. Comfortably, it was a deadly test of endurance. Many would not survive. But winter was only one face of hardship. In other regions, brutal heat bore down. The sun beats relentlessly, burning the skin, drying rivers to dust, and leaving the land cracked and parched. Water becomes a treasure, food even scarcer. A trek for survival can turn into a death march beneath the blazing sun. You crave shade, but trees are sparse. You long for water, but streams have dried. In this heat, exhaustion comes quickly, and with it, confusion, dizziness, collapse. Imagine standing in that vast, empty plain, your tongue thick with thirst, the horizon shimmering with mirages that offer no relief. The earth itself was dangerous. Rock slides, floods, volcanic eruptions, all unnatural disasters that cavemen would have faced without warning. A heavy rain can cause rivers to swell, sweeping away shelters and fires in moments. A shifting hillside can bury entire families. Even earthquakes would have been known, the ground trembling beneath bare feet, a reminder that nothing is stable, not even the ground you walk on. And then, predators. The world was not yet dominated by humans. In many places, humans were the prey: lions, leopards, hyenas, wolves, cave bears. Saber-toothed cats, these were not distant dangers. but immediate threats. At night, their eyes glowed at the edges of firelight, a reminder that you were never safe. A single misstep, a failed spear throw, and a hunter could become the hunted. The sound of a branch snapping in the dark could send terror coursing through your body, because you knew that beyond the glow of the fire, something far stronger and faster than you waited. Even the insects and small creatures posed hazards. Bites could fester, wounds could become infected, parasites and disease spread easily. Without medicine, even a small cut could turn fatal. Food could carry sickness, water, too. A single mistake, drinking from a stagnant pool. Eating the wrong root could kill as swiftly as a predator's claw. And yet, for all its dangers, this world was also the source of everything necessary for survival. The land provided food, shelter, water, firewood. The animals provided meat, fur, bone, sinew. The earth gave stone to shape into tools, but the balance was precarious. Take too much, and you risk exhausting resources. Take too little, and you risk starvation. The land offered life, but it demanded respect and caution. Now imagine yourself here, thrust from the modern world into the caveman's landscape. The first challenge would be your senses. The quiet of modern life would be replaced with constant noise. The whistle of wind through trees, the scurrying of animals, the rush of rivers, the distant calls of predators. Your ears would never rest. The darkness at night would be absolute, pierced only by the flicker of fire or the glow of stars. Every shadow would seem alive, every rustle a threat. The smell of smoke, sweat, earth, and decay would fill your nostrils, heavy and unavoidable. This is a sensory overload unlike anything modern life prepares you for. To the caveman, though, this environment is normal. They adapt not through control, but through vigilance and instinct. Every day is a test. Where to find water, when to move camp, which direction to hunt. Survival depends on reading the signs of nature, the clouds before a storm, the tracks of animals, the scent of rot signaling danger. Failure to notice, failure to act in time, means death. The truth is stark. You wouldn't last a day because you are accustomed to comfort. A storm, a predator, or even the absence of food for a few days would overwhelm you. The caveman does not simply endure these challenges. They anticipate, adapt, and evolve with them. But even for them, survival is never guaranteed. The environment is a constant, unrelenting test, one that claims many lives before they even reach adulthood. To imagine surviving as a caveman is to imagine being caught in a cycle of pressure so relentless it shaped the very course of human evolution. The hardships were not simply daily struggles of food and fire, but forces that spanned years, decades, even centuries. These pressures pushed entire groups to the brink of extinction, and for many, the brink was crossed. Take famine. Today, hunger is a passing discomfort before the next meal. For cavemen, famine was an ever-present shadow, a failed hunt, a dry season, and early frosties could strip the land of nourishment. Without stored food or cultivated fields, a tribe's survival hinged on what they could gather in the moment. Imagine going days without eating, your stomach cramping, your body weakening, until even standing feels like labor. For children and the elderly, famine meant certain death. Entire groups dwindled in number, unable to withstand the unrelenting grip of hunger. Now add climate shifts. The Ice Age itself was not one long freeze, but a series of advances and retreats of glaciers, each shift reshaping the environment. Forests turned into tundra, tundra into ice sheets, then back again. Animals migrated, disappeared, or adapted. Cavemen had no maps to guide them, no forecasts to prepare them. When the cold deepened, they had to move or die. When the warmth returned, they had to adapt again. This instability left them wandering in search of resources, always at risk, always at the mercy of a changing world. Imagine your shelter one winter being swallowed by encroaching ice, forcing your family to trek across vast, dangerous landscapes to survive. Disease was another silent killer. Without sanitation, infection spread easily. A single wound could become fatal when bacteria took hold, swelling, festering, poisoning the body. Infections in the teeth or gums, untreated, could kill slowly and painfully. Contagion could move through a small tribe like fire through dry grass, wiping out entire families. They did not know of germs, only that sickness struck without warning and carried many away. The fragility of health, something modern medicine cushions us from, was inescapable for cavemen. Even childbirth itself was perilous. For women, every pregnancy was a gamble. Complications that are easily treated today bridge births, hemorrhage, infection were deadly. Infant mortality was staggeringly high. Many children never lived beyond their first years, and every birth put the mother at risk of death. Yet, without these births, tribes dwindled, weakened, and vanished. The struggle to bring new life into the world was itself a dangerous frontier. Long-term survival also depended on cooperation. A lone caveman rarely lasted long. Groups were essential, but even groups faced pressure. Too few members, and the tribe could not defend itself against predators or rival humans. Too many members and resources ran out too quickly, forcing dangerous migrations. Balancing numbers against resources was a constant, fragile equation, and when it tipped, groups splintered or vanished. This is the reality behind the bones and remnants we uncover today. Countless tribes that did not endure. Their stories erased by the unforgiving hand of time. And then there is extinction. Not all early humans survived into the present. Neanderthals, Denisovans, and other branches of the human family tree once thrived in their regions, adapting to their unique environments. Yet they disappeared. Competition for resources, changes in climate, or conflict with other humans may have played roles. But the truth remains. Survival was never guaranteed, even for entire species. Imagine your tribe thriving one century, only to vanish in the next, leaving behind only scattered tools and bones as the last evidence of your existence. The struggle for survival left marks not only on the body, but on the very essence of humankind. Our brains, our ability to think, to create tools, to share knowledge, all of this was shaped by the relentless demands of the environment. Those who could adapt, who could innovate, who could cooperate, these were the ones who passed on their genes. The intelligence you rely on today was forged in the crucible of necessity, sharpened by hunger, by fear, by hardship. In a way, you exist because your distant ancestors survived trials you almost certainly could not, if you were placed in that world now. Without preparation, you would not simply face discomfort, you would face extinction on a personal scale. The odds would be stacked too heavily against you. The cavemen lived under constant pressure that stripped away the weak and rewarded only those who could endure. And even for them, the cost was enormous. Life expectancy was short. Bodies wore out quickly, and every day carried risk. To survive long enough to pass on life was itself an achievement. When you think of cavemen, you might picture primitive simplicity, a slower pace of life, But the truth is more brutal. Their lives were defined by pressure, scarcity, and constant threat. This was not a life of peace, but a life of survival against odds so harsh that most modern humans could not even imagine them. And so, if you were to step into their world, you wouldn't last a day, not just because of hunger or predators, but because you have not lived under the relentless, generational weight of survival that shaped them into who they were. If you want to truly understand why you would not survive a day as a caveman, you cannot look only at the physical struggles. You must step inside their minds, into the constant psychological storm that defined their existence. It is one thing to be hungry, cold, or in danger. It is another thing entirely to live every waking moment on edge, never sure if the next sound, the next shadow, or the next day would bring death. Fear was not occasional, it was constant. Imagine waking up in a cave or under a crude shelter, the night's fire burning down to embers. The first sound you hear is movement outside, the crunch of snow, the snapping of a twig, or the growl of something in the distance. Your heart races, your body tenses, and every nerve in you screams, danger. Was it a predator circling, or just the wind? You did not have the luxury of dismissing it. Every sound mattered. To ignore one could mean your life. That hyper-alert state, which today would be called anxiety, was not a disorder for cavemen, it was a survival tool. Think about living with that level of vigilance all the time. No locks on doors, no walls of brick or steel, no guaranteed safety. Even when you slept lightly, always half ready to run or fight. Dreams themselves could be terrifying, shaped by the traumas of the day. Rest was never complete. The brain of a caveman was trained to live in a world where the unknown was lethal, but it wasn't only predators or enemies. Nature itself seemed alive with threats and mysteries. Thunder could shake the earth and split trees. Lightning could set entire landscapes aflame. Droughts arrived without explanation. Rivers dried up, or storms destroyed shelters. For who had no science to explain these events, the world was full of inexplicable terrors. To cope, they turned to superstition and ritual. A strange shape in the dark might be seen as a spirit. A streak of light in the sky could be a message from powers beyond comprehension. Illness was not understood as bacteria or infection, but as something invisible and sinister invading the body. Rituals, chanting, painting symbols, offering food or objects to unseen forces, were attempts to make sense of chaos. These early forms of belief were not luxuries or idle curiosity. They were psychological survival. If you believe a ritual might help protect your tribe from famine or illness, you feel a sliver of control, even in a world where control is almost non-existent. Now, imagine yourself in that mindset. Today, you live in a world illuminated by knowledge. Diseases have names, weather can be forecast, predators are behind glass in zoos. To suddenly be thrown into a world where you have no explanations would be crushing. Your mind, trained to trust in reason and answers, would flounder. Cavemen carried the heavy burden of uncertainty their entire lives. For them, the unknown was normal. For you, it would be madness. Superstition extended into daily life. If a hunt went well after a certain ritual, that ritual became sacred. If someone fell ill after touching a particular stone or entering a cave, that place was avoided forever. Rules and taboos formed not from logic, but from patterns that might or might not exist. But those patterns gave them psychological comfort, and comfort meant survival. Fear, in this way, shaped the earliest forms of human culture. The psychological weight was also tied to grief. Death was everywhere, in hunts, in childbirth, in sickness. Cavemen buried their dead or left offerings, gestures that show they felt sorrow and sought meaning. Imagine losing your child, your sibling, or your partner to a sudden fever or accident, knowing there was nothing you could have done. That grief was part of life, repeated again and again. Yet they carried on. To live with such losses without falling into despair required resilience few modern humans could summon. Another mental pressure came from isolation. Caveman tribes were small, often just a few dozen individuals. That meant every voice, every role mattered. Conflict could tear a group apart, leaving people vulnerable. The stress of keeping harmony was enormous. You could not simply walk away from disagreements, because survival depended on cooperation. The same people you quarreled with were the same ones who shared food with you, watched your back, and helped protect your children. Even joy was colored by survival. A successful hunt meant food, yes, but it also meant relief from fear. Firelight, after a long night, meant safety and companionship. Storytelling, art painted on cave walls, or music made from bone flutes, offered moments of escape. A chance to bind the group together against the crushing weight of existence. These were not luxuries, they were medicine for the mind, fragile shields against despair. Without them, the psychological strain might have broken them entirely. Now, consider this. Could you live under constant fear, surrounded by mystery, stripped of explanations, forced to invent beliefs just to endure? Could you face death daily, lose loved ones often, and still wake each day to fight for survival? Could you carry the burden of not knowing if the world itself was against you? For cavemen, this was reality. For modern humans, accustomed to comfort and certainty, the strain would be unbearable. The truth is that survival as a caveman was not only about muscles or tools. It was about the mind, the ability to endure endless uncertainty, to find meaning in chaos, to carry fear and grief without breaking. This psychological battle is why you would not last a day, not because you are weak, but because your entire way of thinking has been shaped by a safer, more predictable world. To live in theirs would be to carry a weight so heavy, so unrelenting, that most of us would collapse under it before the sun set. So here we are, standing in the mind and body of a caveman for just a single day. By now, you can probably feel how heavy it is, how exhausting the constant fight for survival becomes. And remember, for them, it was not a day. It was every day. For a lifetime. There was no weekend to rest, no society to lean on, no technology to ease the burden. The caveman's life was a cycle of hunger, danger, and hope, repeated endlessly until age or injury claimed them. Yet in this brutal reality, there is something remarkable. Despite the endless challenges, despite the constant fear and loss, cavemen endured. More than that, they created. Think of the walls of caves, covered in ochre and charcoal, art that still speaks across tens of thousands of years. Think of bone flutes and carved figurines, evidence that even when their stomachs were empty and the cold pressed in, humans still sought beauty, still reached for meaning. They were not just surviving, they were beginning the long journey toward culture, toward thought, toward what makes us human today. And here lies the most striking truth. The reason you would not last a day in their world is also the reason you exist at all. They bore the pain so you would not have to. They faced the predators so you could be born into a safer age. They endured the hunger so their descendants could discover farming, cities, medicine, and comfort. Every hardship they carried was a stepping stone toward the life you now live. Still, imagine yourself transported back, stripped of your phone, your warm bed, your stocked fridge. Could you walk barefoot across the frozen ground, chase an animal for miles until it collapsed from exhaustion, or sit in the darkness with only firelight to ward off the night? Could you wake to grief and loss and still have the strength to keep moving forward? The answer, for most of us, is no. We are not built for it anymore. Our bodies are softer, our minds are used to certainty, and our lives are protected by walls, systems, and technologies we rarely even think about. One day in the Paleolithic would break us, not because we are incapable, but because we are products of a very different world. And yet perhaps in that realization, there is something humbling. To know that survival was once so fragile that every breath you take today is a gift handed down by ancestors who clawed their way through darkness, cold, and fear. Cavemen did not just survive for themselves, they survived for you. So the next time you complain about the Wi-Fi being slow, or about waiting in line for food, think of them, chasing their next meal with a stone spear, huddling in a cave against the winter wind, looking up at the stars and wondering if they would see another sunrise. Their struggles shaped the roots of humanity, and though you would not last a day in their world, they lasted long enough to give you yours.